Kenyatta be adjourned indefinitely. She's been given a week to get her act together, or else. On the show tonight, it's gonna be smoking, for lack of a better word, because TG, Tony Gachoka, is already seated and ready. And we are awaiting the man in the middle, Kakamega Senator Dr. Bonny Khalwale, who could be in the building, could be right next to me. If he's right next to me, he can walk on the show right now. Walk on the show. He's here. He's here indeed. I promise you he's here. He was eating chicken in the next door. Daktari, watu wanangoja hapa na harakisha. All right, start tweeting at Bonny Mtetezi, at Tony Gachoka, at Koinange Jeff. The hashtag is JKL. This is live television. Anything goes. You're about to see my guest walk onto the set. In the meantime, Tony Gachoka. Tony, that news from the ICC, real quick, your thoughts?
I think President Uhuru Kenyatta has been vindicated. I think a lot of his supporters have been vindicated. The ICC process has always been a mechanism to effect regime change in Kenya. The last election was run on the basis that Uhuru Kenyatta was guilty as charged at the ICC. We have always maintained there was no evidence against the president, that the people who should have been properly charged at the ICC was Mwai Kibaki and Raila Odinga, none of whom appeared before the ICC.
Is the case over, Tony?
Yes, it is. For the president, it is.
Dr. Bonny Khalwale.
Mambo.
Walking onto the set.
Hujambo.
Sijambo sana. Sijambo.
Salama.
How are you, my brother?
Mzuri. Where is my seat?
Right there in the middle.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Tony, you were saying?
I was saying that the president's case has now reached a point of no return. It is an embarrassment to the prosecutor, an embarrassment to those who thought they can politic on such a serious charge that faced Uhuru Kenyatta at The Hague. It's now been thrown, the gauntlet has been thrown back, that was messed by Ocampo, back to the prosecutor to be asked by the court itself, where is the evidence, if any, against the Kenyan president?
Dr. Khalwale, or Senator, let me say Senator. You heard about the news tonight, Doctor?
Doctor.
Is a vet really a doctor?
Huh?
No, nothing. The news tonight from the ICC. Fatou Bensouda's plea for an indefinite adjournment of the case against the president has been thrown out, rejected by the judges. They've given her 1 week. Your thoughts?
First of all, I must tell Kenyans good evening. And more importantly, I want to apologize that the last time I was invited here, I didn't come. It was by design, because at that time emotions were very high in the country, and especially in the Kikuyu nation, and because the issue that was at hand was ICC, I thought it was decent as a national leader for me not to be part of further heightening of that tension, and therefore I refused to come, and I rang Jeff because I believed that the ICC was not a national issue. It was a private, personal issue for President Uhuru Kenyatta.
What about this time around?
This time around, I'm aware of what ICC has said, and in keeping with my disciplined approach to national issues, I am not going to discuss the private issues of Uhuru Kenyatta, the private citizen. If the Commander-in-Chief and President of Kenya was facing trial at the ICC, I would comment. But he was charged as Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, and therefore I would be misusing my privileged position as a national leader to discuss the private
Jeff,
business
I have
of the
a comment about this.
Go on.
I know the Honorable Senator very well. We have attended funerals and weddings together, and they are private matters. I also want to say this, and I went to his campaign at his home when the High Court discharged him as a member of Parliament, but I didn't go for a national leader. I went for a friend and a brother. I think the president is also a human being, worthy of our decorum and respect. And if you call yourself a leader, you must first of all become a person. In other words, Uhuru Kenyatta is a father and a husband, a brother, a son, and for me, a best friend. in his life he was charged for a crime he did not commit. One of the worst crimes in the world, crimes against humanity. I think anybody in the opposition or in government or even ordinary Kenyans who prayed for the president should today be rejoicing that there has been no case proved against the charges preferred on the president. And I would wish the first person who should do this is my friend Raila Amolo Odinga. Any of the other leaders of this country, Musalia Mudavadi and many others, should be rejoicing and happy that our brother, if they don't want to call him our president, is now free of these charges. And I think that's a minimum. I don't think you can come to Kenyans and say that today you're fighting for the rights of the common and the downtrodden, and because somebody is president, they do not deserve compassion and they do not deserve respect.
But the senator has the right, you know, we reserve him the right to refuse to comment, so that's his prerogative. So let me ask you this, Senator. The events the last 24 hours, and I know the opposition was calling for the resignation of the president, now we can discuss that, if action was not taken. So, IG Kimayo is out, Joseph Olelenku, former CS Interior, is out. Your thoughts? Is that a good move?
Yeah, before I comment on that, I think my brother Tony deserves my respect. The things you have said are true, that we have to show compassion. But there are always two sides of the coin. And in this particular incident, one side is the case of Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, and on the other side, we have the case of the victims of the post-election violence. As a politician who has come to the national scene on the platform of social justice, mtetezi wa wanyonge, I would rather I reserve my comments because the victims of post-election violence do not have Tony Gachoka to do their brief.
Okay.
Okay, let me
wait, no, I want to get to the topic I talked about.
I know you want to use your...
I do want to use it.
No, I want to say this.
No, wait, Tony.
It's a personal issue.
Tony, let's move on.
I want to pass condolences.
Let's move on.
I want to pass condolences to the late Otieno Kajwang.
Okay, we'll get to that,
and I
Tony.
tell you why.
We'll get to that.
I tell you why I want to do that. Because I want to say it is personal. I'm not a member of the ODM or his party, but he is a friend and was a great senator who this country has lost. Okay. And he was my friend.
Can we move on?
So I'm saying...
You have said it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Be clear about that.
Lenku. Kimayo.
Olelenku. I don't know what you want me to say about Olelenku and Kimayo, because many months ago, I had an opportunity to meet President Uhuru Kenyatta for the first time in my home in Bungoma, when I told him that the national security structure was defective and that he needed to address it. He did not. Yesterday he took action, and I want to tell him congratulations. However, in my view, that was too little, too late. Why? Because to purport to remove Olelenku and Kimayo was doing a very small thing. The issue of national security is a very complex matter, to the extent that you cannot pin it only on two Kenyans. National security is in the hands of the National Security Council, and the National Security Council enjoys the advice of the National Security Advisory Council, committee rather. That the president, having moved on Olelenku and Kimayo, for which we thank him, that he missed the bigger picture, which is that there are other players who sit in the same National Security Council with him, mainly one, General Karangi, and that he didn't take any action against him. To me, it means it was too little, too late. What do I mean by too late? I mean that from January this year until yesterday, we have had 25 such attacks against innocent Kenyans. So President Uhuru, in his privileged position as the president of Kenya, needed to be reminded by bomb, 25 times when Kenyans were losing lives and property, for him to act on his friends Kimayo and Olelenku. That is too late.
Will I be allowed to speak? Can I then say this? A great American said, in the long history of the world, very few people are called upon to defend themselves in the hour of maximum danger. And when you are done or called upon, you use it immediately. I want to tell you, terror or war is not new to Kenya. Northern Ireland was faced with internal terror, white upon white, Catholic against Protestant for over 20 years. The late First Lady then, or the Prime Minister of the UK, Margaret Thatcher herself, came within inches of death. You go to the American Civil War. You move here to Nigeria in Boko Haram. You go where societies fight. Many of the reasons behind the fight, some people want to gain territory, some people want to spread religion, some people want to bring mayhem. And what happens when a country is under attack, whether it be internal or external war? The first thing to do is to come together as a country and deal with a common enemy.
But the Senator is saying, is it too little, too late?
And I'm not going to answer the questions the way you want me to say. I am simply saying, Uhuru was the president at this time when this happened. Anybody could have been president at 9/11. And I want to say this because I know Khalwale has been eloquently covered in the last few weeks. George Bush is not a man who will ever go down in history, but he was the president at 9/11. And his most famous speech was done at Ground Zero, when he picked up the mic and he said, the people who attacked America, we are going to bring them to justice, or we will take justice to them. And I want to say it's time for people to choose who are the friends of America, those with us or against us. I would tell the president this: there will not be a shortage of demands for you to fire people or to bring other people. You were at Ground Zero. You've made a decision to bring new security. Let people choose who are our friends or who are our enemies. But please, Mr. President, let us take justice to them if we cannot bring justice to them here. We cannot fight these battles in the streets of Nairobi when this war should be fought in the oceans of Al-Shabaab in Kismayo. We will take this war to them whatever cost. And that's why Bin Laden had to die under Obama, although the war was declared by George Bush. It was never Bush's war. It was America's war. And if Bonny Khalwale becomes the next president, may he go and look for the murderers of those Kenyans who were killed, and may he take justice to them, even after Uhuru is gone. This is not an Uhuru problem, it's a Kenyan problem.
Senator.
I think I want to thank Tony for those very emotional words. Somebody told me that Tony comes from the background of the media, and therefore when you choose to pursue the American example, allow me to tag in and tell you that the 33rd President of the United States of America, Harry Truman, said the buck stops with the president and not with Tony Gachoka, Chief Koinange, or the bullfighter. In this matter, however much you are befriended to the president, however much you love him, the buck does not stop with you. It stops with the president. If by happenstance your prediction comes to pass that Bonny Khalwale is the president of Kenya, I'll proudly tell Kenyans that the buck stops with me, and therefore I will not blame the mother of a 3-year-old girl who is raped by some derailed character. I'll not blame her, but I'll tell her that I'll bring the police to protect you, protect your 3-year-old, and I'll tell her, I am sorry that while I was the president of Kenya, your little girl was raped. That is besides the story. The real issue, Tony, is this. Some people in this country must stop politicizing the fight against terror. All the pronouncements that I've made in this country is because I believe we can defeat Al-Shabaab. George Bush, who you appear to have very little regard for, will be remembered forever that when on 9/11 the terrorists hit the Twin Tower, he was woken up, and the first thing he did, George Bush Sr., said that America cannot be brought on its knees by anybody. And after that, he moved into Iraq, and you know the consequences. There has never been any other attack against Americans. In the case of Uhuru Kenyatta, when this happened in Westgate, you remember all the promises he made. Up to now, we have come from Peketoni, we've gone to Kapedo, we've gone to, we have come from Westgate to Peketoni, we've gone to Kapedo, we've gone to Wajir, we've gone to Mandera 1, we are now on Mandera 2, and all the beautiful things that the president, who speaks very good English, said, nothing, Tony Gachoka, has moved. We are saying that the president collects taxes from us. If he cannot give us security, the honorable thing is for him to resign and give another Kenyan an opportunity to discharge. If he thinks can you relax? Yes. If he thinks that such a Kenyans are in short supply, even the bullfighter can give security to Republic
Before you answer, bullfighter, you think you can do a better job?
Yeah.
You can do a better job than the president?
Indeed, and let me tell you how I'll do it. Today, if I was the president of Kenya, no apologies, I would address the most important thing now is the exit strategy from Somalia. Karangi has failed the president because he sits on the National Security Council. He should have told the president, let us develop an exit strategy from Somalia.
So you think it was a mistake?
We went into Somalia on hot pursuit. After that, we should have come back, defend our borders, and allow Somalis to do what they want to do with each other. It is not cowardice to come out. Jeff, the great Americans went into Vietnam, they came out. The great Americans went into Somalia, they came out. The great Russians, superpower, went into Afghanistan and they came out. President Uhuru must tell Kenyans his exit strategy from Somalia. We cannot afford to have no safety in buses, no safety in our bars, in our hotels, even no safety in quarries.
Tony?
Well, I don't think I was a guest here. I think I'm supposed to hear a lecture between you and my good friend, the senator. But so be it, it's your program. Next time you invite me, I don't think I'll come. But for
it's
today,
your prerogative, Tony.
Yeah, fine. But
sometimes it's good to listen.
Yes, but it's good also to be given, and the president, an equal opportunity.
You're getting one right now.
Okay. Since we are talking about American presidents, let's remember one great American president did say, on matters of style, you swim like a current. But on matters of principle, you stand as a rock. And Bonnie and I had asked you to bring a dictionary for those who need to check some of the things we'll say today. But the issue I wanted to stay on here is about national security, preservation of life, and the role of a president as defined in the Constitution of Kenya and as understood by the rule of law. I want to give an example which is very clear in everybody's mind. The Ebola crisis that has hit West Africa. You know, if you were to ask many people are emotional about Ebola, but they're not logical. And in philosophy, you've got to have something called logic and reason, rationale. Now, a president dealing with such an epidemic would want the world to come together as one, to be able to conquer a virus that can kill anybody. It's borderless. It does not know any West African, it does not know any British, any American. It has killed people all over the world. I'm very sorry from the school of thought that Senator Khalwale comes from. As a senior leader in this country, he refuses to understand that terror is not homegrown. Terror is not unique to Kenya or to Uhuru's presidency. Terror is in the streets of London. It is in Tel Aviv, in Jerusalem. It is in America at 9/11. It is, Jeff, I'm sorry to say, in our churches. I'm sorry to tell you, terror was in South Africa and Mandela was jailed because of terror. And I want you to understand that you are dealing with people who decide their life is worthless and they will kill other people. And when people make such decisions that are not rational, that are not logical, and they attack the nation called Kenya. Yes, you want political power, and I understand. ODM is impatient. I mean, if I worked for the Prime Minister like the bullfighter, who's tried 3 times and never made it, I would try anyway to become. But you don't use terror and the death of people to scare and frighten a country. You don't come here and lecture the president elected by Kenyans and tell him he didn't do his job when he's doing his job. And I want to tell you this. It takes time to defeat terror. I gave you the example of the United Kingdom. You didn't hear me. It took 20 years for the Good Friday Agreement to be signed under the George Mitchell and the involvement of Bill Clinton. Before Arafat died, Bill Clinton was near signing a 2-state solution for the Middle East of Palestine and the Jewish state. People come together as a region, as the world, to fight terror.
Let me ask you this,
and I want to say this. America has caused attacks in Kenya, here in our embassy. attacks have been happening in Tanzania, worldwide. I do not want ODM or Khalwale or anybody who is politicking on this matter to get away with the fact that terror is a Uhuru Kenyatta problem. Terror is a world problem. It has killed people, men, women, and even Islam. You go and look at the ISIS. ISIS are chopping the heads of aid workers, chopping the heads of women and children. These are animals, these are murderers, and these are people we must condemn. And if you march in their glory and you march against your president, you are committing a treason against yourself, because you have no integrity in the lives that are lost. Because they are not lost because of Uhuru Kenyatta, they are lost because of terror and extremism. Okay. And we must fight those vices in this country.
Senator, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
You're saying withdraw from Somalia because when KDF went in there, that's when we started getting hit real hard. We are not the only peacekeepers. We're not the only peace enforcers in Somalia. Ethiopia is there. They haven't been hit by these guys. How come? Why us?
Exactly. And you know, Tony doesn't have the kind of burden I have, because he's not elected to represent anybody. But I am elected by 600,000 Kenyans from Kakamega County. Tony, let me tell you, these things is not theory. Ethiopia has the longest border with Somalia. Ethiopia has more reasons to be attacked by Al-Shabaab than Kenya, and Ethiopia has more Somalis living on the Ethiopian side of the Ethiopia-Somali border. But these things are not happening in that country because there is leadership in Ethiopia. These things are happening in Kenya because the country is begging for leadership in the fight against corruption. What do I mean? Jeff, in Ethiopia, the state security is not corrupt. In Kenya, the state security is corrupt. And that's why Karangi's officers in Kismayu spend many hours of today, as they did last week, last month, and last year, selling charcoal, trading in contraband sugar from Brazil, which comes and kill the sugar industry in Kenya, corruption. They look the other side when Al-Shabaab wants to come into our country because they have a deal which they can't refuse.
Senator, do you have these facts?
I do.
You have these facts?
This is why I'm speaking before the Kenyans. I'm not pretending. So they are doing this kind of business. So Karangi's officers are corrupt. But the officers in Somalia are in Ethiopia are intact. Now, when you compare this, and given that President Uhuru is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of Kenya, President Uhuru is supposed to tell Karangi to come clean.
Maybe he's unaware. Maybe he's not being told the story.
Jeff, there is something in this country called the National Intelligence Service. And I was coming to a very critical issue. The issue being that the president, for reasons that I'm unable to understand, has allowed the military, the national security, to be tribalized to the extent that now that Kimayo has left, he is now the only person in the security structure who does not come from the community of the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of Kenya.
Neither did Olalenko.
Now,
I need to...
You will respond. Are we running out of time?
No,
Tony, relax.
Tony, you just spoke a moment ago.
I know you come from the president's tribe. Can you relax?
No,
I have to speak. So now, and I'll give you the names and figures. I'm not misleading the nation.
Tony, you feel you're being left out here?
Yes, I am. Because number one, Bonny Khalwale has told the country called Kenya that I cannot speak because he's elected and I'm not. So he has gone down to the trenches. So I'll go and meet him there.
Let's go.
When Bonny Khalwale stood after the High Court removed him from his seat, I myself gave him a campaign contribution of 70,000 shillings.
You gave...
he's here. If God is here, he's asking.
What does that have to do with anything?
No, just you're talking about talking. Can I finish? He has talked about integrity. I'm not elected, but I get people elected. Let me tell you this. Uhuru Kenyatta removed 2 million shillings for Bonny Khalwale to be elected.
Come on, Tony.
I am telling you.
You have proof?
Yes, I was there. I campaigned for 3 days with Eugene Wamalwa in his place.
What does that have to do with the price of tea in China?
But please, when we are talking about serious, do not tell me I've come to Jeff Koinange and I'm not elected because you want to hit my character. If you try and hit my character, I'll hit yours. Now, I'm coming. It's very simple. I never lie. He told Kenyans. I also don't lie. You do not bite the hand that feeds you. Let's be clear. Let's move from there. I leave it for history, and I leave it for Jesus Christ. Now, let me say this, very importantly, about this issue of tribalism. I can never remember a meeting I've ever attended where Khalwale has not talked about Luhya unity. And the Luhyas have to come together, otherwise Luhyas will be left out. I have this problem, that this attack on the Kikuyu nation, everywhere I go, you've got this job, you've got that job. I do not understand this because I want to ask you, the way in which government officials are appointed under the new constitution is prescribed under law. The military have a tradition of how you get the head of the military and how many times under the Tonje rules you serve. And the next commander is the one who serves you. Parliament and the Senate, where Khalwale sits and many people sit under devolution, they are able to vet any appointment of the president in order to approve it. And I want to say this, the commissioner of police cannot be appointed without vetting of parliament, neither can the director of intelligence, who they passed and approved. And let me say this, the president of Kenya does not enjoy the powers that were enjoyed before. The problem is the failure and collapse of parliament. Senate is fighting the governors, governors are fighting the Senate, parliament is fighting whatever. The only thing they don't fight is to increase their own salaries. And I want to be very, very clear. If the president as an institution is under attack, so should be the Senate, so should be Parliament, so should be the judiciary. And I say this because if ODM is saying we are not secure as a country under Uhuru, who was secure in Kasarani with the men in black? Who was secure in Orange House when Magareo was being brought out in front of the public? Who is secure if you disagree with Bonny in Kakamega? They will kill me. You are lucky I'm here in the Intercontinental and I can talk here because I'm free. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. I'm free at last, and thank God Almighty.
And we're going to take a break at last. Senator, hold the thought. Hold the thought, gentlemen. This man is going to die.
Mimi wageka man in black, wageka mchini. But Meguna was running. Meguna, I told Meguna, don't write a book. He wrote it, he was running. Have you ever heard of Meguna? He can't enter this soup. Oh, I'm telling you.
My goodness. Where's my extinguisher? My goodness. What a show. Wow. Oh my. Oh my. Don't even think of touching that remote control. We're going to pay some bills, come back. Doctor himself is your Dr. Bonny Khalwale. The bullfighter has come out fighting, as has Tony Gachoka. At Tony Gachoka, at Bonny Mtetezi, at Koinange Jeff. The hashtag is JKL. Tweets coming in thick and fast. JKL will be back in a moment.